Hello YouTube friends, Dr. Teresa Ulrich here. It's been a couple of weeks now since Parley has arrived. Things are going pretty well, but I have some concerns because Captain Jack had some air in his pouch. And the reason I know that is he was kind of floating oddly, so I had to do a pouch evacuation. Now, sometimes male seahorses will get air in their pouch for different reasons, and sometimes it's a one-time event. But when seahorses have a gas imbalance in their system, in males, sometimes that represents by releasing the gas out of the body into the pouch, which is probably the best option because otherwise it tries to come out of a tail or part of the head, and it appears as some sort of bubble, which creates damage in that area of the seahorse circulation system. So the pouch is the best option. I did perform an evacuation. If he demonstrates that he needs this again, I'll see if I can get help recording the demonstration of the process. But anyway, I'm concerned because even though Captain Jack is doing okay, it's been a couple of days since I did the pouch evacuation and he's eating. I noticed that he and Parley are looking very dark in color. And sometimes that's an indicator that something isn't quite right in the aquarium. I've done my normal water testing. My nitrites are 0. My nitrates are maybe around 3 or 4, which is super, super low and excellent for a seahorse aquarium. So, I considered what else could I change. The fact that those parameters are so low means that my filtration with a weekly water change and weekly clean out of the canister filter are probably sufficient. So it's something invisible, and the only thing I can think of is my protein skimmer. Now my protein skimmer does a really nice job, but I did a little bit of research on it. It's no longer in production. It's an Aqua C Remora. It is not the Pro series, but it was rated up to 75 gallons for its time. This is a 29-gallon aquarium here. But when I compared it to some of the more modern releases, it is antiquated and does not seem that it performs as well as the stuff that's currently available. So I didn't want to do it, but the area that I think I'm going to have to attack is the protein skimmer. So luckily for me, I'm really smart about saving gift cards and points for different websites that I make purchases from. And I just purchased a new protein skimmer. It should be here soon. And once it arrives, we'll take a look at it, put it together, and see how it starts working for the aquarium. But that's the only thing that I can think of to troubleshoot. Otherwise, everything else looks good. Everything that I can measure seems that it's in range. I keep the aquarium very, very clean. I do a mini vacuum each night, so let's see if that makes a difference. Well, the new skimmer has arrived. I'm going to unbox it and see what is required to put it together and start cleaning any parts. Okay, so I have all of the pieces out of the box laid out. I'm going to fill my bucket with some water and a drop or two of soap and start cleaning all the pieces. Well, luckily I read the instructions before I started cleaning. It was recommended not to use any soap or chemicals, so because it's a nice day outside today where I am, I just used a hose and did a little power wash on each of the parts. I'm going to let those dry for a little bit and then I'll come back and start putting things together. Okay, so the pieces have had a chance to dry a bit. Before I put everything together, I want to make a couple of observations here. I'm very optimistic about the purchase of this newer protein skimmer. For one, here I see what looks to be injectors from where the air will be forced up to create the micro bubbles. There are 11 of them here, which tells me it is going to make a big difference in foaming ability, because as far as I know, the skimmer that I currently have, which is very good still, only has one injector point. Looks like the size is pretty similar to my old skimmer for a hang on the back, but the collection cup is smaller, but that's okay. And it does have a way for me to connect a hose on here if I want to let things drain into my bigger container. But another thing that looks different is there is a tube that goes down to collect the water from the bottom of the tank, which is different than what I have. I have the power head or the water circulator, which sits at the top of the tank in my current system. So I think that's going to make a difference in its ability to collect water from an area where organic matter is most likely to build up from the lower part of the water column. So in this setup, it looks like the pump is internal and it won't even sit outside of the skimmer. So that will be interesting to see how this all works when I have it put together and set up. Well, this was a pistol to put together. The instructions were just awful. I ended up just looking at pictures, and I think I have everything figured out. It is running. It takes up a nearly similar amount of space to my previous protein skimmer. One thing that is different is the tubes for the intake and output. They do extend farther than my previous skimmer, so I'm going to have to make some compensations with my lid. Not a big deal. But otherwise, it takes up a similar amount of space to the other skimmer. Usually a new skimmer will take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to break in, but I am looking at all of those bubbles already and I am very optimistic. So we'll see what happens. One thing that's different, it does have an outlet, so if your cup starts to overflow, for example, if you're on vacation or something, it'll just flow right back into here. And into your aquarium, which is not ideal, but at least you won't have an overflow and a mess. We'll see how it works if I need to set up that extension to let it exit a different way. Let's check it again in a couple of days and see how it's doing. Thanks for joining me. If you're finding this information useful, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to Cowfish Pro.